you're in the water all the time. You don't even know that you're wet. Like there's no concept of I'm wet or there's a place without sharks. Like this is just it. It's just how it is, the status quo. And so in order to challenge the status quo, it requires like the fortitude of being like, people are going to tell you that you're wrong. People are going to come for you, right? People are going to challenge you pretty openly and like ferociously, or if they're more passive aggressive, maybe behind your back. But the point is that like, it's not for the faint of heart to challenge a paradigm.
Welcome to Playing with Fire, the podcast for people who are ready to custom build their love.
We're talking about non-monogamy, however you design it, as an individuation opportunity.
Want to leave the default and make your life spectacularly you? You're in the right place. Ken, we are lucky enough to have a guest today. I'm really, really excited about this conversation. I mean, when we heard that this book was coming out, Ken and I both had a strong reaction to it because it is on this book, this author, they are talking about something that matters a lot to us. Ken and I frequently say that a paradigm shift takes, in our work, we see 3 to 5 years. It takes time to do paradigm shift. And Marla Schreiber is with us today, and they're going to be talking about what it is to make a paradigm shift. They've written an entire book on what it is to come head to head with mononormativity in a monogamous world. What happens when you want a non-monogamous life, when you're making that paradigm shift? So we're super excited. Marla is a white, queer, gender-defiant, neurofabulous therapist. I love that phrasing. That's fantastic. Marla is an educator and an author who's been practicing polyamory since the olden days. 2005, Marla. That's spectacular. That beats me. I'm in it for this. This is so awesome because that is the dark ages of when we didn't have any books. Really, this is going back.
Yeah.
And Marla recently wrote a book, a much needed book, titled Non-Monogamy and Defying a Paradigm, which will be released on August 1st, 2025. So that should be the weekend that this is first airing. It's available for pre-order. If it's not August 1st yet, when you hear this, it's available for pre-order from Thornapple Press. And it's also going to be available on August 1st. And I highly recommend you add this to your bookshelves. Do not pass go. Just do it. You can find Marla on social media, which is actually where I first came across them as well, at Marla. And I'm super excited, Marla. Would you just jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you find yourself in this whole mess of getting out of old paradigms and into new ones?
Yeah, I have always been, I think like if I had to think of, and not had to, I have thought about this a whole lot. If I think about like one of the best ways to like center myself in terms of my identity, the word that comes to mind is defiant. I was born defiant. Like literally all the stories, I stopped wetting the bed out of defiance. Like that's just always been my thing. And even the name of the book, right? It's Non-Monogamy and Defying a Paradigm. Originally it was going to be Non-Monogamy and Mononormativity. And I literally said it and my mouth was like, absolutely not. I was like, can we like talk about, it's just not cute, you know? But I think the thing is that it's like, realizing that, you said, where monogamy is presented as the only choice, which is really what we would call it sort of a close relative of mononormativity. It's compulsory monogamy, right? You don't have a choice. This is the way, right?
Yep.
And so I was defiant my whole life. I am an elder millennial, which means that a lot of my queer elders, didn't exist because of the HIV/AIDS pandemic. How many of my elders didn't I have, right? That's when people are like, oh, trans people, they're brand new. I'm like, no, we know
No.
that.
We
Not
experienced a massive event.
Yeah, it's like, and so, this idea of like the newness of they, them pronouns, all of that. And I'm like, hold on, hold on. We're recreating something that got taken away from so many of our community members. And so I think that I came into a lot of, I mean, I was still pretty young when I started figuring out that I was never like the other kids. I mean, literally in my introduction in my book or in my acknowledgments, I talk about how like I was always the ugly duckling until I realized that I was a freaking swan, like I was never one of the ducklings. I never quite fit in. And I got, I definitely was monogamous because that's just what you were supposed to do. Like
Yeah.
that's based on mononormativity. I didn't even know that there could be a different way. It's like, I don't, for I'm going to make maybe some people won't resonate with this example, but like, I grew up watching commercials on TV of like maxi pads and tampons or panty liners, maxi pads, tampons. If someone had a period, those were your options. And then one day someone told me that there was a menstrual cup. There was a
Yeah.
whole other category of ways. And then someone else was like, there's a sponge. And I was like, wait, like what? There's other ideas. And so I think non-monogamy kind of hit me on the head like that. But to wrap it up in a bit of a TLDR for you is that I was super super lucky that I was 17 years old in I'm from Montreal, Quebec in Canada. And so we have this interesting school system where after we finish high school in grade 11, and then you have 2 or 3 years of what they call, there's the French acronym is like cégep. That's what we called it. It's like college, but it's pre-university.
Mm.
And so it's kind of like going to university, but the grades don't count. So I was on a campus and I was just like fucking around, and taking courses because, and there was this one teacher, one prof who ran an ethics course that was mostly just him showing up in class, dropping contentious subjects, and letting the class debate. My best friend at the time happened to take this class, and she would come out. It turned out that this man was, may he rest in peace, he was polyamorous, longtime polyamorous,
Mm.
had 9 children, actively polyamorous with, like, again, Montreal's a pretty like sexually badass, or at least it was when I was growing up. Like, it's a pretty sexually cool spot. And so I think, or sexually forward, I think, in terms of just like acceptance. Again, the world has changed a lot and I don't live there anymore. But I think there was just more kind of really like counter and subculture going on there, or a lot of it, let's say. And so this teacher would drop this stuff, and then my friend would come out of class just enamored.
Mm.
Enamored. In fact, I have a whole little piece in the book where I talk about this experience, in fact, because she was just like starry-eyed because the theory is very sexy for non-monogamy. Oh my God, you
Yeah.
love multiple people, you could sleep with multiple people. It's going to be so fun. It's going to be amazing. And then you try it and that might be true, and also all the other feelings humans have. But that is my not so short answer to how I was exposed to non-monogamy.
This is so I just want to highlight that that is one of the most common answers is somebody gave me language. Someone
Mhm.
gave me language for it. And from there, well, the imagination can run wild. There's a lot of directions to go, but without the language, like you said, like until you know there's a menstrual cup, what are you going to like invent one? I like inventing non-monogamy from the monogamous imagination. It's not that it never happens. I've seen people do it. They have no idea
Yeah,
that there is anything else and then they do spontaneously. But it's so much more common for people to be like, yep, I heard the word, something caught, and it kindled an exploration. It kindled something in me, or even it kindled total hatred. I've seen people have like an initial response of, oh my God, no, never. But
yeah,
then sort of, oh, well, but now I have this language. I can never not know that there isn't
yeah.
just one way. There actually are many paths up the mountain.
When I was like 16 or 17, I started uh, dating, if you can call it that, for somebody my as shy as I am. But um, I remember I had a girlfriend, and I was walking with another girl, and I was like, isn't it too bad that like we couldn't like be girlfriend with like more than one, because monogamy wasn't even a word. Like monogamy wasn't even really a word in common
Yeah,
usage. It was so entrenched. This is in the long time ago, 80,
absolutely.
Yeah,
1980.
like
um,
Yeah.
so nobody was talking. There was no conversation about it, and I didn't have any language, and so all I knew was, could maybe there could be something different. She's like, yeah, it's too bad, but it is. I'm like, oh,
and
okay.
then you just keep walking on.
We just keep walking, and that was the end of the conversation forever.
Wow.
Until so much later, the language started to develop. But although even
Yeah.
then, when I actually started being polyamorous, there still wasn't conversations about it. So this is in the early 90s. Nobody I know was talking about it.
Wow.
It was
Yeah.
just, but it was novelty. Like you said, the theory is sexy. The thought of it is sexy.
Yeah.
The reality of it, or at least the imagined reality, is like, oh, and it so suits those of us who are interested in novelty. It's like, oh, it could be different, it could be new, let's go find
Yeah.
out what that's going to be all about.
Yeah.
um, but because there were no conversations, those first forays into non-monogamy were well, they were entirely self driven and not thought
Yeah.
about very deeply, so it didn't go all that well. But yeah, it's interesting to hear about the getting getting the language presented to you. It's like, oh, there's a way to think about that. That sounds
Yeah.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
how
Like,
lucky that some people now, and this is what I find in my work, and I'm guessing you are too, Marla, that many people now they get the word, they get their first inclination that like, oh wait, they see the water they're swimming in, they
yeah.
see that monogamy is a thing, and that also there's air, there's dry land, there's other places to be, and they see that, and now they have resources. You've added something important to the discourse here. You've been talking about defying paradigms. I really love this. Ken self-identifies as a defiant motherfucker, so I think this is it's
Ew.
like it's the defiance is at his core. I
I
Yeah.
was willing to ask the question. So maybe I could have two girlfriends? No.
no.
Okay. Mm.
Yeah, you're also very very gentle. I
Yeah.
love that you wrote this, and you start off with there's a metaphor in the book that I think is a great jumping off point in talking about what it means to shift paradigms, because the metaphor of sometimes we're going to piss the snowsuit, i
Yeah.
I laughed out loud. I have 7 kids, so I've been in that moment of you've got the kid
Yeah.
all dressed up, you went to all the work, and then and now they're out in the snow, and yeah, then now they need to pee. I
Yeah.
love that you use this metaphor. Could you tell us a little bit about the inevitably humbling experience of working to shift from that mononormative experience into something else, especially when you don't even necessarily know where else you're going? What, like,
Yeah.
how do we
Of
tell the difference
course.
between like something is growing pains or like, oh, this doesn't work for me? Because we are going to stumble along the way.
I it's super funny that just like the timing, because I got someone sent me today, like this morning, like literally just I hadn't even popped out my mouth guards yet. I was just like having my morning pee looking at this article someone sent me, and it was I read through it, maybe not fully, but it was someone who was saying that like, oh, a lot of, polyamorous people are really just swingers, and I took it and I got really frustrated, but I also was like, it brought me back. It's like I cannot share how many times, like I have it right here, like this is my little book, but it's like I pull this book up in therapy all the time, and like it's not available yet, right? You can pre-order it, but like nobody can physically put their hands on it yet, really. But except a select few. But it's one of those things where I'm like, the thing that we're talking about right now is this thing that I feel like so many of us need to really be thinking about. And the reason I call it defying a paradigm is that it's not just one paradigm. Every paradigm, like unraveling, deconstructing a paradigm, right? Let's just really quickly talk. What is a paradigm, right? You're
Yeah.
talking about, you said like the water we're swimming in. I often say the tea we're steeped in. But the idea is that like you're in the water all the time. You don't even know that you're wet. Like there's
Yeah.
no concept of I'm wet or there's a place without sharks. Like this is just it. It's just how it is, the status quo. And so, in order to challenge the status quo, it requires like the fortitude of being like people are going to tell you that you're wrong. People are going to come for you, right? People are going to challenge you pretty openly and like ferociously, or if they're more passive aggressive, maybe behind your back. But the point is that like it's it's not for the faint of heart to challenge a paradigm. And that's why when I look at like every freaking like trans person who like, when they're like, oh, like you're pretending, I'm like, do you think
Do
I'm
you know how
like
much work that is?
do you know how hard it is to be trans in this world? Do you know how hard it is to be queer in this world? Do you know how hard it is to still be attracted to men, no offense, Ken, in this world? I just
I'm
No,
I just
he's
attracted
got
to
the same
men,
problem.
and I have the same problem.
I know one of
Yeah.
my partners is also a cis, who's the person I started doing it with in 2005, by the way. So like he also is just, like we both are always. I actually said to him recently after having another like fuckboy experience where I just said I was like, you have ruined men for me. I was like, you have
Yes.
allowed me to believe that they can be like you, and I am not because I want another one of him, but I'm like, you give me the idea that they can be like empathetic, interested in doing the work, like self-reflective, all of those things. And I'm like, anyway, sorry, I
No,
digress. This
I'm
is
with
not
you.
to
I
go on
tell
that.
Ken that all the time. I'm like, don't you mislead me sometimes, babe.
Yeah,
You mislead me. You lead me down a path and then I forget and then I have another
yeah,
experience like that. It
I
is
may not be
hard.
entirely representative of the group.
Well,
I
you've been
know.
doing the work a long time. You've been doing
Yeah,
the but when you just really lit me up, Marla, when you said like when someone's pushing back against your paradigm shifting. That is one of the ways that it could get you could get into discomfort. Like you're
yeah,
feeling rejected by your peers, you're feeling rejected by your family, you're feeling questioned by people, you're feeling possibly a lack of safety. And that may not be imagined. You may be actually experiencing a
yeah,
lack of safety. I had the custody of my
absolutely.
children thrown in my face as a like when I was coming out. It
Wow,
was terrifying. Those are
wow.
very real things. So I don't want to look over the fact that this isn't just a thought experiment. Like I was
No,
so 100% certain that I had
yeah,
found the truth of my identity in
yeah,
polyamory that I was willing to stand in that fire, and it was excruciating, and
yeah,
it was infuriating to have people say like, "Oh, it's just trendy. You're just like you're on trend now." I'm like,
Yeah.
this is
yeah,
so much work. This is so
yeah,
hard. To defy a paradigm is
yeah,
also to have to invent a new one essentially, because it's not like we're talking about getting out of one
absolutely.
box into another. We're talking about
No,
actually beginning to do the work of creating your own world and creating your
yeah.
own meaning. And my
And
God, yeah, that's not for the
so
faint
much
of
of
heart.
what we did was that, right? Because we were 18 years old. Like we were both
Yeah.
barely 18 when we started doing this. Now, if I met a 14-year-old who was like, "Oh yeah, I'm polyamorous and queer and my pronouns are Z here," I'd be like, "Yeah, for sure, today." I'd be like, "Of
Yeah.
course. Nice to
Now,
meet
but
you."
like,
Like
but in 2005,
it was not the same landscape. And also like, it was like a strange like suburban Montreal experience, like off island. It was a vibe, right? It was a very different world. And so I think the thing is creating it ourselves. So, like,
yeah.
we learned that it existed in this class, which of course I audited later just for fun. But so I knew polyamory was a thing, but like, I wasn't, this man was a semester away from retiring, right? Like, I wasn't a 65-year-old with 9 kids. I was 18 and trying to figure out, like, you know, like bisexuality at the time and queerness and like all of this, right? And really being in a world where people around us were doing serial monogamy. The friend that like introduced me to it, who actually took this man's class, she went on to cheat on her boyfriend under this like,
Mm,
wow, non-monogamy, as you may have read in the book, right? I talk a little bit about this, but it's one of those things that like we didn't have, I mean, I think technically the first version of The Ethical Slut may have already been out, but I would have had to go
Yeah.
to a library to look for it. Like,
And you would have
I,
had to know
where,
that it exists and what to even look for. Because
yeah,
I came out in 2009 and we had the second edition of Ethical Slut had come out. And I
that
did
year.
find it, but also it didn't describe what I was doing. Because I was
No.
doing, like, I went
Mhm.
straight into a live-in triad, and Ethical
Phew.
Slut was really much more about like being in your sexual, and that wasn't what I was doing. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for anyone who's shifting paradigms, like, also, like, do you even know what it is that you want to create? There's so much imaginal work to do at the beginning,
Yeah.
exploring and
Yeah.
expanding your imagination, and for you to do that at 18 with no models in front
Yeah.
of you is
Yeah.
phenomenal. It is quite literally a phenomenon. Like, that
Yeah.
makes me want to study you a little bit, just a little bit.
Thank you so much.
It's
And now you
I'm
mentioned the
just-
library. Now I want to go back to 2005 and ask a research librarian about what they have about non-monogamy.
oh my
if you were
God.
going to
Can you
ask
imagine?
anyone, that's who I
That's
would
it.
want to
I
ask.
mean, I really want to
Yeah.
find out what they
And
knew.
we wouldn't have even said non-monogamy. Like, we didn't even have, no one was saying
Nope.
we were saying polyamory at best, swinging at best. And swinging also was a very like shadowy, ooh, swingers, right? Like
Oh yeah,
all
the
of
the
it.
word that existed for through my life was polygamy. Like that was it.
Yeah.
That was
Right.
the alternative to monogamy was polygamy. And
Right.
And there's
So
so many ideas about the people who do polygamy, right?
yep,
right.
Like,
So
now
now
there's
you're
a
thrown
whole
into
other
another
Mhm.
bucket. Yeah.
because
yeah,
it's what you said, Jolie, about leaving one box for another box. There was already a polygamy box,
Right.
yeah,
You couldn't just
but
like reinvent
those were
that.
them. That's the whole set of boxes.
And
yeah,
Ken, you also like, so Ken at 18 years old had his first experiences of not just the one he talked about, but he's shared on the podcast before of basically like experiencing his partner doing what she categorized as cheating. And he was like,
yeah,
well, okay, I guess that doesn't, that, okay. I mean, it doesn't really impact me. So, and just kind of, so he started moving in a non monogamous framework without ever realizing it. And it was literally, so that is, when is that, Ken? Like 84, 86? I don't know. How old are you?
85.
85.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he goes from there all the way till 2009 when he and I fall in love. And I tell him, so I've heard this, I've looked on the internet and there's a word for what we're doing. So he, all of that time, just sort of floating in this amorphous space of having no language,
Yeah.
having no words, and also trying to piece together, what does it mean to be accountable to multiple people? What does it mean to have a relationship that doesn't follow the dominant narrative? And so
yeah.
I give you both a lot of credit, because I did not. I followed the dominant narrative for the first 17 years of my adulthood and then made the shift, which
Well,
was very,
now
very different.
I my mind is whirling with your teacher there.
Yeah,
65 and
yeah,
polyamorous for how long? Like back into the times when I was, going through these things. So
yeah,
there's a revolutionary right there. There's somebody
yeah.
willing
And like
to just create a whole new thing.
openly queer, like he was a vibe. I mean, he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
such a vibe. He was a real he was also a defiant troublemaker of a human. We got along very well, he and I. But yeah, it's I don't, and he had like, they had 8 adopted kids and 1 biological kid through all of that.
Wow.
Like, I was just like,
Wow.
he would tell
Who is
stories about
this
like
and
having
where?
dates. Yeah, this was in Montreal, and his name was Joel Hart.
That's
Again,
amazing.
a human who came with a lot of contentious stuff in general. That was part of his thing. And again, this is so many years ago now, but yeah, but the fact that like, I it's so funny because when my friend was coming at me, sorry, I'm about to do a noisy water thing. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
got to do the water thing.
Just not like the sexiest podcast noises. I just um the friend that came to tell me all about polyamory, right? When she did that, I was in this trashy 2-month relationship with an absolute, like, I don't know, just like a dillweed of a human being. Like, just not great, but I was so like, when she was telling me, I'm like, I'm just not really interested. Like she was almost like evangelical about her commitment to this, like so much so that
Right.
again, she then cheated. This is a story we've all heard. Yeah. But
Yeah,
we all know
absolutely.
the person
I'm
who's
so
like, no,
committed to my ethical
Mhm.
non-monogamy that I'm going to be unethical right now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But all to say that when she first brought it to my attention, I was like, because she's like, she was a very, very like highly intelligent person, very, super critical thinking. It was like these great ideas. I'm into it. And I was like, yes. And I'm super busy with my super amazing boyfriend of like a month and a half. And I only have eyes for his self. And so at first I was like, it makes sense to me. The logic was logicking, but I was like, and that's not like even then I was kind of defiant. I was like, don't tell me what to do. Like
Right.
it's like
In any direction, don't be
absolutely.
prescriptive to me. Don't
Of
tell me.
course.
I think that's a huge part when I'm working with people who are doing their paradigm shifting. Frequently, their first move was to get they sort of like crowbarred their way out of monogamy, and then tried to sort of assimilate into another box, and without even
Yeah.
realizing it. Often that
Yeah.
was coming from a community or a
Yeah.
particular book they'd read, but just as frequently, I find it's coming from, well, I'm partnered with this person and this is how they told me it works. This is how it works. And it sort of
Oh,
creates this new box for them. And
yeah.
I myself was like, I was in that position all these years ago. Like Ken was open. I was not. I thought he knew what he was doing. So I kind of just jumped in. And even though I was very
Sorry
quickly
about that. I did not.
it yeah,
But
knows he
anyway,
didn't know
yeah.
what he was doing. But it was also about I didn't realize that I was going to need this extended period of time to be in the unknown, to be
Yeah.
between forms of me. I wasn't yet non-monogamous. I didn't know, like I was non-monogamous in practice. I had multiple partners, but I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't even know where I wanted to land. So to try
Oh,
to say like, "Oh, I want to be this" was actually asking too much of me, but I found that my family, my friends, I had little children at the time, like
yeah.
everybody wanted surety. Everybody wanted to know which box to put me in now. And I
Oh,
hear
yeah.
people respond to that today. I hear them talk about like, so I need to know, right? They seek safety by knowing. And so they want to know what are the rules? Just tell me what I have to do to get into the new box.
Yeah.
But there is
Oh,
this
yeah.
I see how you've written about it, and it really mirrors my own experience of we have to stay in that unknown and unknowable time
Yes.
much longer
Yeah.
than it seems like we would have to, especially given that we do have guides and role models now. But
Of
still,
course.
it's my
But
experience.
with all due respect, like you were saying, like it takes 3 to 5 years to unlearn a paradigm. And I was like, that's it. Like you
Yeah.
were saying that, I was
I
like,
mean,
Really? Like that's the whole, like, how did you do it? And can I have some of whatever you're eating? Because I have been doing this and it's interesting, right? We had to create it all from the ground up, had to, and also wanted to. I think
Yeah.
the partner and then partners that I was co-creating this new way of relating and being together with, we all were very interested in being active agents in this like co-creative process. But for me, like I still have moments where I come up against mononormative thinking or heteronormative thinking. Like I've been queer since I had a crush on Catwoman and Batman,
Yeah.
and like that was like watching Adam West and the Adam West Batman when I would come home from nursery school vibes, right? But the thing is that redheaded Catwoman though, right?
Oh, me
Earth-
too. Me too. Oh
Eartha
my God.
Kitt, like I needed to grow up to fall in love with Eartha Kitt. I was too young. I was too young. It wasn't appropriate.
Didn't even
Anyway,
know.
all to say all to say that there was this co-creative process where like we didn't have anyone. We had an idea of what Joel had done for his polyamory. We had an idea of my friend who cheated on her partner, and I was like, no thank you. And then but then there was like, what are we doing, right? And like intersecting and coming up against all these different paradigms that overlap with one another, right? So it's like when you were saying 3 to 5 years, I was like, I'm like 20 years and counting and still flopping.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's 3 to 5 years to like, "Oh, I've got it, and I
Completion. Yeah, no.
transformed." I think of it as 3 to 5 years gets me a really solid understanding that I don't know fuck all, and
Ah,
that therefore I question my own assumptions
got
regularly.
it.
I am constantly in that process of,
Yeah.
so I'm in now a new process, and for me it was actually about, I felt like it was about 8 years, as I didn't have any role models either. So it was about 8 years in that I thought, I have gotten to a spot now where I assume that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I assume that I am being influenced by mononormative values. I assume that my mono mind is a part of me that I have to continually unpack because those gremlins just keep getting back in my suitcase. So
Yeah.
I expect that to be part of it. And that for me signifies like, oh, I feel like I have gotten to a new place where, but it's not a new paradigm of like, oh, I've arrived, because I still have to live in this world.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure
Yeah.
there's ever going to come a time, because I'm not ever going to live, I'm not going to experience my consciousness
Yeah.
outside of a mononormative world unless something real freaky happens real
Right.
quick.
Yeah. Or you go to live in like some remote part where colonialism hasn't taken over and
Yeah,
you
like
can
I
just
don't,
like do the thing.
like where would that, how would that be? I don't yeah.
And if we happen to find that, we're not telling anyone because colonialism. There's the paradigm shift makes me think of well, again, another martial arts metaphor, but the idea of a black belt. People think, oh, expert. Actually, black belt is beginning. Like, oh, there, you've got your black belt. You're ready to go. You
You're
can now
so ready to
step
start.
forward and actually learn. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like, yeah, all right, you've gotten enough comprehension of the new paradigm to be able
Yeah.
to go start fucking things up and
Yeah.
then learn from them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny that you say that because someone the other day in a comment online somewhere said I had used the language of practicing non-monogamy, and someone was like, "I don't like the language of practicing. It makes it sound like a sport or something." Like it was an in good faith comment, but they just didn't like that language, and I'm like, "Oh no, for me, like, I mean, I don't sports. I don't know if you can like tell that, but I don't sports. It's like not my thing. But like, but I the thing is that for me, it's so much like a sport or like,
Yeah.
people talk about practicing yoga because I'm never done. Like I am
Yeah.
constantly in the proverbial oven baking into the cake. I will never be a complete cake. Like I'm always, because I think that's the thing. It's like we're always learning and growing, right? Like that's, I mean, whether we like it or not, and hopefully with some agency in the process, right? But we're having experiences and we're growing and we're having challenges that we have to overcome. And, some people, they will have the same experience over and over and over and never participate in the learning, growing exchange, right? Like, and it's interesting how, like, you were talking about looking to someone who's done something like non-monogamy for longer and being like, okay, tell me how to be in the box. And I've actually made many a video saying like, just because someone has been doing it for longer doesn't mean that they're good at it,
Yeah.
That's for
right?
sure.
Yeah.
I think that questioning, because I've seen people who've been practicing for however long, but they're still making the same mistakes or hurting people in the same ways over and over. So doing it for a long time without getting support, without working through the goop, just means that
Yeah.
you're doing it maybe not well.
Right.
Yep.
And the ability to be with that, the ability to the capacity to sit with, yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years. And I don't know that it's actually getting me the experiences that I want to have, or my partners keep giving me the same feedback. So we run
Yeah.
a group program as well as
Yeah.
my private work. But in our group program, something that really stands out to me is when someone is courageous enough to say, yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years or 15 years. I need a reflection pool. I need some place to go look at like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I need a group around me that's not my dating pool, that
Yeah.
can actually kind of hold up a mirror for me, because it's not
Yeah.
actually going that well. That's courageous. That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of fortitude, like you said. So there's the fortitude of, can I be uncomfortable, and then over and over again, can I be with the discomfort of
Yeah.
continually becoming myself in this process?
Yeah.
Because familiarity will win out time and time again.
Yeah.
We will keep making the same mistakes unless we allow ourselves to
Yeah.
experience ourselves as flawed and becoming, which
For sure.
and also in the context, so I'm thinking about in the context of defying mononormativity, we're also going to get a sort of continual, like there's a continual gold star for some of us, just feeling like, well, at least I'm not doing that. And I feel like we kind of pat ourselves on the back or be like, yep, I'm not doing mononormativity. I'm doing something different, and forgetting, oh, but there's a million ways to do non-monogamy badly too. Like,
Oh
like
yeah.
getting out of the mononormative expectations isn't enough to have actually made a paradigm shift into something that is healthy, that
Yeah.
nourishes you, that feels fulfilling for you and for the persons that you're interacting with.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
that feels like a big part.
it's kind of, we can call it like, I could say non-mononormativity, but I would
Yeah,
say like polynormativity, right?
yeah,
We say it also like homonormativity, right? Like
right.
you say heteronormative. So again, it's like, what is the normative experience? And if enough people do a thing for long enough, then there becomes certain norms of engagement and expectations. Like the like debates, I actually recently said that I'm no longer talking about hierarchy, but sometimes you have to talk about the thing to talk about the thing you want to talk about anyway. But
Yeah,
like the debates within, and it's not just the debate is not the problem. I'm freaking here for the debates. Let's do the debates. What I'm not here for is the shaming, the blaming, the holier than thou, the
Mhm.
standing on pedestals, the putting certain people on pedestals and taking other people down because they're doing it this way or not doing it that way. And I am just like, yo, we are already fighting. We are swimming upstream like salmon who are just hoping that a bear isn't going to eat us at the top of the fucking waterfall. And really now the salmon are fighting each other too.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, could we not? This is a huge core value for Ken and I in our community, because we have monogamous people who participate in our programs that,
I love
like,
that.
yeah, because great, if you want to unpack your mononormativity as a part of making your experience of monogamy conscious, I am so here for that.
The
Like,
most, the most.
right, yeah, yeah, and I wish someone had offered me that option years ago, but what I didn't want to recreate was that sense of there's a right way to do this and we're all going to bow down to a particular way, which also helps us practice being, again, in the unknown, and the, like, well, if we're figuring out what a new paradigm feels like, let's get comfortable not knowing for a
Yeah,
while. Let's just be
yeah,
with that. And
absolutely.
that also has led us to have a lot of couples in our programs, right? And
Yeah,
so that brings us to couples privilege. And I just don't want to let you go without having talked a little bit
yeah,
about couples privilege.
absolutely.
I know we talk about it in the community so much.
Yeah,
Um, but what I'm really interested in right now is, what can we do? Where's a starting place as we're shifting away from mononormativity and the
yeah,
values that go with it? We hear a lot about the values. Somebody will say to me, like, well, my values are around exclusivity. And Ken and I have really been in this question of, like, is that actually a value, or is that word standing in for some values? And we've been like chewing on it for a while, but
There's a lot of philosophical discussions
there's there
to
there are,
have. Yeah.
but under that, here's my question is, what do you suggest people do if they start to realize, like, oh, I really do value exclusivity. I really do. I think I want that in my life, but I also want to unpack mononormative values. So how do we wrestle with that? Because I find couples privilege comes in and says, well, the couple's privilege comes in at a societal level and says, well, you get to have all of these things. We get to expect that your relationship is privileged. You get to
yeah,
expect that you put it first.
yeah.
But that feels different to me than somebody who says, I know I want exclusivity in some areas, and I'm going to be conscious about that, and I'm going to name it. But then in practice, it can kind of look the same way. Like, in practice, I may not disclose all of my exclusivities, or not even know where I want exclusivities. I may have lack of clarity around, well, I want something. I want to feel safe somehow. And so I
Mhm.
prioritize my couplehood because I just can't figure out
Yeah.
any other way to feel safe. So my
I mean,
question is, how
yeah.
would you imagine, like, security without exclusivity? What do you tell people about that?
Can I ask for just some clarification about what you're
Absolutely.
referring to when you talk about exclusivity in this context?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from people is exclusivity of frequently sexual connection, but
Yeah.
just as frequently householding, sometimes something that's a little tricky to pin down, best friendship. I want to be their person, or I want to be their best friend, which is really interesting, right? Because most of these
Yeah.
people then will acknowledge that they do want their partner to have more friends, but it's
Yeah.
like there's this, and it often seems to come as almost like a last gasp of like, no, but I need to feel that I will be the one, or I won't be
Yeah.
safe. And I
Okay.
want to honor that feeling with,
Yeah.
but it also feels like there's something under there that still needs to be unpacked, where we're like over coupling exclusivity and security, exclusivity
Yeah.
and safety.
Well, I mean, how is that not the trope of mononormativity? How
Yeah.
is that not the monogamous paradigm in action? That in order to be secure in the world, in order to have a double income in your household, right? Again, I'm making a lot of, I'm speaking as
Yeah.
stereotypes right now. Like I'm saying nothing about the world and anybody having an income right now. But
Yeah.
we're promised we're promised in the paradigm of monogamy where couples are privileged, right? Literally, that's what this paradigm is. I got $200 off my car insurance when I got freaking married. What? Read the book. I got really mad about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll just say this is not a cute moment. And I, of course, took the $200 off my car
Right. Because
insurance at the end.
capitalism. So sure.
Yeah, because capitalism. But I think the thing is that there are so many features in like the paradigm of monogamy or mononormativity doesn't just exist in our social world, it's embedded into our legal system. It's there are so many not just privileges, yes, but benefits available to us that make
Yeah.
us want to do this thing. Oh, of course I want to live with a partner because then I can afford housing. Of course,
Right.
right? Housing is designed for two people financially, right? And so there's at least two people, let's be honest, in this economy. But
Yeah.
I think the thing is that this idea of like, I want to be, again, my penguin, my lobster, my soulmate. Someone asked me today what I thought about twin flames, and I was like, I don't know enough to answer that. I have no idea what you want from me. It was like, I don't know. But it's the thing is that there's only one soulmate. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many soulmates I have? Right? There's this idea that like the scarcity model of mononormativity, right? And again, it's connected to capitalism and misogyny, and it's connected to colonialism, like all these different paradigms. Sorry, I'm dropping a lot of big words that nobody wants
No,
to think
no.
about. But
No, they're good, important
Very
words we
important
need to
words.
think
yeah,
about.
Hmm.
I had a word count in this book. I just want to name. I had to take out a lot of explanations about a lot of words. That was probably one of the hardest things is like give it you may have noticed that I'm not short for words. Anyway, all to say, it's part of a series already, but could I write my own series possibly? Anyway, I think the thing is, though, this idea that I want exclusivity in some way, right? This is my best friend. I said that the first time in senior nursery. That's pre
Mm.
kindergarten, for those wondering. His name was Aaron. But the point is, like, this idea that we have a best friend, a number one, that's the thing that gives us an idea of safety. Now, if you just take a second, anybody listening, right? How many best friends, partners, right? Monogamously or otherwise, right? Have you had and lost, right? Whether it's because you let them go, they let you go, whatever reason, right? How many best friends and partners have come and gone throughout our lifetimes?
Right.
The
Right.
person I told you the story about, like the best friend who was very interested in polyamory, we're not friends anymore. We were best friends for 15 years, right? We even have the language colloquially, oh, bestie, right? Besties, this idea. It's like, what if all my friends were best? What if I let go of this part of the paradigm is that there is only so much pie to go around, right? There's only so much love to go around. There's only so much connection to go around. There's only so much joy to go around. So you better find someone who's hella stable and absolutely under your thumb, available to you at all times in order to secure your spot in line.
Yeah.
Part of defying mononormativity is realizing that that's not fucking true.
The getting into that boat with just one other person is not actually, that doesn't equal safety. But we have convinced
but
ourselves.
we've convinced ourselves that we have. And part of all those big words that you were throwing around with patriarchy and colonialism and all of that and capitalism, we are encouraged to do this really simplistic comparison of people, like best friend, best how, like as though there is one quality to friendship, and I will now rate you all based on that, and somebody's going to win. That's nonsense. We are such complex creatures that even if you were inclined to compare, it would be an immense task. But we're encouraged to simplify and compare, and then value, and then assign values according to that comparison. And whether you are inclined to a monogamous relating or not, that is a thing that can be let go of.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, we could continue this conversation,
clearly,
I think, for like, I don't know, a year.
Long as we wanted
and
to.
I agree, Marla. I read this book and I thought there's a lot more book behind this book.
Totally.
There's clearly more. And I know that's okay, because you also have work elsewhere. Where can people follow up and find you? How can they get more of you? Because now that they've had a taste, I'm sure they're going to want more.
Sure. I think the thing I wanted to say about the book, so this book is actually a mini book that had a word count. It is part of, so the book More Than Two was rewritten by the original, one of the original authors, and then a new author, Andrea Zanin.
This book, for the YouTube watchers, this book, the new version of More Than Two,
new version,
not
More
the
Than
first,
Two.
not the blue copy. This beautiful,
the beautiful
copy.
one.
They essentially, from what I understand, completely scrapped it and rewrote it, essentially, because 10 years later, it's a very different world of non-monogamy. But all to say, this book is a mini book that I was invited to write as part of the More Than Two Essentials Guide. So it's like these kind of mini books that are written by different Canadian non-monogamy authors who are like participating in this series, right? So that's why I had a word count. And it's really funny. Andrea Zanin, who's one of the authors of that book, was my first editor. And like, we were talking about all these metaphors. And I feel like, we were talking about, you're talking about like the black belt metaphor and all these different ones. And like, I had to be reined in. So like, there are too many metaphors, Marla. It's just like,
there's so many, and there's so many good ones. You've got a lot of good metaphors in this tiny little book. You still kept a lot.
That was like the most reined in. Anyway, all to say, where you can find me. So I am often standing on a soapbox on the internet, sort of just like screaming into the void as Marla. So like polyamory, but with Marla instead. And also your autocorrect will try to make that Maria. That is just definitely not my name. And so I also have a newsletter because the internet is a fickle place, right? So TikTok, Instagram, a little bit on YouTube. I'm sort of growing into that space more. But I think if you sign up for my newsletter at polyamarla.com, also like everything is linked in all my meow meows and all the places, right? But that way you can stay on top of things like events and like different sort of offerings that are coming up, because I do workshops, I do collaborations, which is always like super fun. Things like this, so I get to let people know. I have a book launch that just got like agreed upon officially yesterday in Toronto. Yeah. So for those in Toronto, this probably will come out after it's over, but all to say, like all these exciting things that if you want to sign up for my newsletter is probably a great way to keep in touch.
Fantastic. And I thoroughly encourage people to go grab the book, pre-order, grab the book when it's on bookshelves, because I actually I know it's hard to keep to a word count. I am wordy myself. And yet, it's just so wonderful to be able to pick up a book that is so digestible. I literally just nommed it all up in a couple of hours. Like there it was. I had it. It was deep. and had meaning. Like I could feel the meaning in every page, but you managed to do the thing that is hard to do, which is to be succinct and stay on topic. You weren't trying to cover everything to do with non-monogamy. You're right to your topic of defying a paradigm. And this is something that I think matters to a lot of people, even beyond the polyamorous and non-monogamous community. I think the idea of how do we question paradigms? How do we defy? How do we do that? So I think this is one to add to. It's immediately going on my reading list, which I offer to people all the time. And I will link my reading list because every time I mention it, somebody says, hey, reading list. I will make sure it's linked, but we will have a link to Thorn Apple Press as well so people can find the spot to pre-order the book. And I hope I get to hug you in person at some point and ask you to sign my copy because I'm really thrilled to add it to my bookshelf.
It's so, so lovely. I also just want to name, no one in my entire life has ever called me succinct. And I do want to just shout out the 4 different people who edited it. So 4 different, it went through 4, and which is also interesting because when I was doing the audiobook reading, I felt like I was an AI generated version of myself because there were certain things that I would have said just slightly differently, but because they'd been edited by people who make things more succinct and take out the Oxford comma, which still blows my mind, but
it's important that we have our editors. It's important. They do important work.
Well, it's been great to have the unedited version of you here.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it's super fun. I feel like it took us like some time. We like rev the engine and then we're just like going, and it's like we had to like stop on the way downhill. But yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. I'm like, we just screeched to a halt. I hope you'll join us again because I am definitely game to pick up this conversation in the next season. I would love to keep talking to you.
Thank you so much. This is really a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on.
We talk to you all the time. It is absolutely imperative to me that we get to hear from you as well.
Yes, please.
So we'd love to invite you to join us. Join Ken and I. We're holding monthly Ask Me Anythings. You can show up, bring your questions from podcast episodes, from your relationships, bring questions about non-monogamy, about individuation, about relationship skills. We would love to share space with you. We're hosting these AMAs free of charge for our podcast listeners. You are the Playing with Fire community, and it matters a ton to us that we connect with you directly. So
I would so love to hear your questions, and it'd be so awesome.
Yeah. Go to joliehamilton.com/AMA and you'll find a way to sign up real quick and get an invitation to join us in a small group where we're going to get together and talk about all things non-monogamy, individuation, and relationships.